the biggest thing that teaches kids is our own behavior, right? Like they're not great at doing what we say, but they're great at doing what we do. And so, one of the biggest things we can do is to model taking care of our difficult feelings. You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode number 272. Today, we're talking about what is mindful parenting with me and my community manager, Lynn Weller. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast, now with over 1 million downloads. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you've calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clarke-Fields, Mindful Mama Mentor. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of Mindful Parenting, and I'm the author of Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Hello, hello, hello. I hope you are doing well today. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm so glad to connect with you and grateful that you're choosing the Mindful Mama podcast, and I'm so happy to connect. And if you're new, special welcome. So happy to have you here. This is an awesome episode for you to jump into. We're going to talk about what makes mindful parenting different, right? Like, what is it? What do you learn inside mindful parenting? How is it different from mindfulness for parents, right? And so this is a really cool special reverse interview. You're going to hear my awesome, amazing community manager, Lynn Weller, interview me and pose questions to me about mindful parenting. And you'll learn why it came about. You'll hear about my own struggles and challenges and what's inside the course. Some awesome takeaways I want you to listen for: how mindfulness practices literally change the brain in ways that we parents really need. How learning to take care of our own difficult feelings is this huge game changer. And how parents are we're often making some unconscious communication mistakes that can actually make things harder. And we're going to talk about what some of those are. So I can't wait for you to dive in and join me in this special episode. And if you're interested in seeing the answers and meeting Lynn and myself more fully, go hop over to our baby YouTube channel. And you can just search on it. It's at Mindful Mama Mentor on YouTube. And you can see clips from this episode as well as short teachings from me over there. And so make sure if you go over there, you subscribe so we can grow this channel and get this information out to more parents. So I can't wait. That's all I got to say for you today. Let's dive right into this conversation.
All right. I'm excited to be here interviewing you, Hunter. Like so many questions kind of went in my head because to me, you are a rock star. So I want to, just know so much about, how this all came to be. So that's kind of the first thing that I want to ask you is, why did you create mindful parenting? How did this all happen?
Well, it came out of my own struggles first, like my own abject failure, the way I saw it as a parent. But so I'm going to just take us back to there, because what I was really frustrated with, and I was really struggling because I have a bad temper that I got legitimately inherited from my family. And I was, my daughter, she was challenging, highly sensitive kid. I'm a highly sensitive person. So when she started kind of talking back to me and all those things that kids do when they're 18 months and 2 years old, this temper came out, and I was so ashamed of it. And so, it was just exactly what I didn't want, because that's my father had that temper. And this was exactly what I didn't want to do. So I was so frustrated, and I started really diving into learning and things like that. And I discovered so many great parenting coaches who had really great advice and great things to say about how to respond to your kids. And, I was just so frustrated because I couldn't remember any of it when I was in that stressed losing it place. I couldn't remember because the advice was always like, pause, then just say this. And I was like, but I can't just like, what about before the pause part? Like, I was so frustrated. So for me, that part really frustrated me. So I really was like diving back into my mindfulness work and mindfulness training that I'd been like studying it since I was a teenager. A few years before I had started my own meditation practice. Of course, after one had a baby, it kind of fell out of the wayside. But I knew that that was like the key to for me to help me ground and slow down and calm my waves. And I started to learn more and more and more about all the recent research that had come out about mindfulness, about how the changes in the brain and how it really helps to calm our reactivity and slow down that nervous system stress response. And I was realizing, oh, the reason I can't just respond the way these coaches are telling me to respond is because my nervous system is like hijacking my brain and I literally can't access those parts of the brain. And so as I started to put these together, I realized that like one without the other wasn't enough. And I had been blogging and I had released a program about creating your own daily practice. And I'd been doing this sort of steady work, sharing what was going on. And I had I don't know when I started coaching along that timeline. It's somewhere along there, but I realized that, that there were all these like great ways to respond and they were all missing this work with the mindfulness. And then also equally like in the mindfulness world, kind of people so there are some people who teach like what they call mindful parenting, but I kind of think of it as like mindfulness for parents where they would just kind of assume like, well, if you can calm down your stress response and you can be calmer, then you're just going to naturally say something better. You're going to just naturally respond more skillfully to your kids. And I proved that was not true because I was able to calm down. And then I said some really, stupid things that were maybe just like habits from my family or culture. And then my little daughter was like, kaboom, all over again. So I wanted, I, mindful parenting came together after a while. I had been starting doing some coaching and I actually sat down with a book that said, ask the question that was like, actually remember where I was like sitting under a tree. Think my daughter had a lesson. I was like sitting under a tree outside and I was like reading this book and it said like if money were no object and you were, whatever, you're guaranteed of success, like what would you make? And I was like, "Oh, I would make mindful parenting where it brings together all this mindfulness work and this self-compassion work with the skillful communication work because it doesn't make sense that they're separate." So that's how it was for me. It was something that I started to implement like in my own life, the kind of the two sides and started to share with my clients and then I really just put it together in mindful parenting.
So were you already doing these things as you were kind of learning them and you were seeing a difference? Can you tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was starting to I knew I had to dive back into my mindfulness practice as I was in that really frustrated state and take care of myself so that I just had some resources to be able to respond better to this incredibly sensitive kiddo. And so I started to just make sure I did like a little yoga and a little meditation every single morning and not just get up when she woke me up, but set my alarm and get up a little earlier. And that was making a really big difference for how I was able to respond to her. And at the same time, I started really studying like nonviolent communication. I was listening obsessively to Zen Parenting Radio. Shout out to Todd and Kathy, they're amazing. And as I was looking at these things, I was like, well, how do you respond this way? How do you speak? How do you speak in a more skillful way? And I even did a training in parent effectiveness training, which is a lot of like communication skills. So I was building my own, I was working those two sides at once. It was really like many years of kind of practice and study, kind of putting these together. And I was slowly seeing my own like I was slowly starting. First for me was calming down and the stress response, and then the communication. It is, as you know, Lynn, because you're like a member of mindful parenting, like it's kind of like learning a new language, right? Like learning these new communication skills. So that kind of came after, as I started to like get more control over, my own sense of groundedness and etc. Then I was able to like start to learn this other language and translate these things I wanted to say into more skillful language. Um, so that was kind of the process for me.
Now, I know that you say you had a bad temper, but I don't know how much I can envision that now. Can you, like, I think this would be helpful for parents who are really like, but we can look at you and say, well, she has it all together. She's not like me. Well, tell me a little bit about what parenting was like for you before you figured it out.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm, it's funny because like I'll do all this mindfulness work because I really need it. And so many people don't believe me when I say that because I've changed like my state in a lot of ways, which is really interesting. But, um, yeah, I'm like this highly sensitive person. I would kind of fall into these pits and I'd be like a roller coaster. And I grew up with a dad with a real bad temper, and I used to remember being scared as he would kinda, like, rage down the hallway, and I would hide behind my door in my room. And that was exactly what I didn't want, but it was interesting for me to see that, like, when she what I thought of then as talked back to me, um, and I yelled at her, like, and stormed up the stairs. I was doing, like, the same thing, and I could see that she was scared of me, and it was, like, this exactly what I didn't want. It wasn't just, like, one instance, like, this temper kept coming back. There was a time, I really remember being so frustrated with my daughter, and I just, like, grabbed her shoulders and I put her on the bed because I wanted her to take a nap, like, just, "I need a break, like, you need to take a nap," like, and I felt that I touched her, and I was like, "Oh, wow, like, this is how child abuse happens, is that just people are in this we're in this in this stress response, our nervous system is feeling threatened, and it's just, it's not like it's like this can happen to good people easily because it's so challenging. Parenting, it's like just so much more challenging than we think it is. We see all these pictures of adorable, cute kids, and no one knows how really like psychologically, physically, emotionally disruptive those first years can be because, we're just all kinds of causes and conditions from that. But I saw that I was really scaring my daughter and it really broke my heart. I remember crying on the floor outside on the landing outside her room and just feeling like I'm a terrible, terrible mom and telling myself those things. And it was like I felt like I didn't have any choice in that moment. I felt like, okay, well, after I cried myself my eyes out, like, well, what do I do from here? I don't get to stay here. I got to learn and grow. I've got to turn this around because this is the most important thing in my life to me. Like this is the most important thing I am doing with my life right now is raising this other human being, and I don't want to pass on this pattern because I could really see, oh, I feel like her big feelings are it like when she had those big feelings, it felt like in my whole body that it was unacceptable. Like I couldn't accept it. It was unacceptable. And I realized that I had that feeling because that was what was shown to me, was that my big feelings were completely unacceptable, right? Through because of my father's anger and things like that. And they're on down the line, right? Like his situation with his father was even worse as a kid. And I just was like, oh, this is how patterns repeat. Is like we're not even conscious of it. And then this feeling is like really embedded in our bodies. And, unless we start to heal that and change that, we're just going to unconsciously repeat this pattern. Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. I love anything that is getting my kids off the screen and doing creative work where they're focusing their minds because it makes such a big difference. And that's why I'm so proud that KiwiCo is a sponsor of the Mindful Mama podcast. KiwiCo believes in the power of kids and that small lessons today can mean big world-changing ideas tomorrow. So they want to kickstart curiosity, creation, and innovation in kids right here, right now. With a KiwiCo subscription, your child gets a new crate full of fun science and art projects every month, for trailblazing toddlers to more experienced explorers and every single stage in between. My daughter loved her Tinker crate that she got every month. She would get so excited about the mail coming to her name. And then one of the projects she loved so much was the arcade claw. And she made this whole arcade claw, like the one that reaches for animals. And you could see the mechanics of it. And she was so involved with it. I barely even got involved at all. And she got to use the claw to pick up pom-poms. She loved it. And I loved seeing her focused, creative, interested, and really passionate. Encourage kids to tinker, innovate, and create. They'll discover the science behind hydraulics, build a walking robot, and see how high they can make a rocket fly. Everything is shipped right to their door, and there's no commitment, so you can pause or cancel anytime. There's no telling what a KiwiCo kid can do. Kickstart curiosity, creation, and innovation in kids today and discover a brighter tomorrow. Get 30% off your first month plus free shipping at any crate line with the code HUNTER at kiwico.com. That's 30% off at kiwico.com, promo code HUNTER. And you can find that link right in the notes. If you are listening to this on a device, just check it out. You'll see there's a link for notes. And when you click over that, you'll find that link for kiwico.com. And don't forget to use the promo code HUNTER.
So Hunter, when do you think it actually clicked for you that you had something special here, something that, maybe that you didn't see anyone else talking about, or that didn't combine, what you talked about with meditation and with, communication skills and when did it really click? Can you think back to that?
I don't know. I guess like right when I was like writing up those modules, I was like, oh, no one's doing this. Like this needs to be shared with the world. And I had a lot of, like all those natural questions about it. Like I'm just, I'm not like a quote unquote expert. Like I'm not naturally good at this. I'm not naturally good with kids. Like who am I, the struggling person, to be putting this together, right? But what I realized is that like this is a conversation, and this is an important piece that I can contribute to this conversation, that these two things really need to come together. And now it's like it's a little more than two things. Like there's all that self-compassion work and all these different things mixed in there. And along that process, I guess that was like, maybe 7 years ago or something. Like there's been so much kind of learning along the way about so many different things. But yeah, right from the beginning, I was like, oh, nobody's saying this. I've got to share this.
And I mean, I from talking to you before, I know that you didn't start out as a meditation expert, as a parenting guru. How like did you always think you were going to be doing something like this?
Oh God, no. I thought I didn't know what I was going to be for a long time. I was My dad's an artist and I was always into art, but I kind of went to school and wanted to do something, not be an artist because my dad was an artist. It's kind of like the reverse of most people's like, go be a lawyer or a doctor. It was like, don't be a lawyer, be an artist. Uh, and so it was pretty cool, actually. Like a lot of the paintings that I've done are very much in the same vein of understanding, wrestling with a lot of these same issues that come with motherhood and embodiment in our bodies and our just natural nature, our very varieties of emotion. Like, so I have these paintings of animal heads and pregnant women's bodies. Um, and you can find them at hunterartist.com. This is a really sad old website at this point, but um, I was really interested in the idea of um, like our animal nature. Like pregnancy is not like fluffy and pink and pretty. It's like gross and oozy. And there's like multiple sets of eyeballs in your body at the same time. It's crazy, and so, and like, there's this like aggression that we feel. Like women feel aggression sometimes, right? Like I was wrestling with that at that point too, this idea that, and it's so shameful for us, right? To like have like anger and aggression. And I really wanted to like normalize that, I guess, and understand it and kind of painting. I remember I was painting a lot as I was listening to all the parenting advice. When I had my mother's helper come to the house, I had my 3 hours and I would like go into the studio
Oh,
and I'd make these
wow.
paintings. And, and, and yeah, so I thought I was going to go be a painter. Actually, I have a master's degree in art education. So I learned about like education and learning. So I've always been really fascinated about learning. And then, yeah, then post parenthood, I was like, oh my God, I just have to figure this out. And that was what set me off into studies of, reading and studying about psychology and communication and all of these things.
Wow. Thank you.
Hmm.
I know that earlier you said how you meditate because you have to. You meditate essentially, like you recognize that that's really important for you to do, and I think that it can be a little intimidating at first for some parents, and just any people to start meditating. And I know when I started, I went for a pretty long period of time that I thought, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. Something's wrong. I'm not doing it right. Um, so like, do you think anyone can meditate? Is that really something that everyone can do?
Yes, I do think that anybody can. And even if you're like fidgety and even if your mind goes crazy and all of those things, yeah, I definitely do think that now. I probably didn't think that at a different point in my life. But yeah, like you, I had when I first started meditating, I had like after like 2 or 3 months, I was like, "This is stupid. I just sit here thinking the whole time. I'm not doing it right. I can't do this. What's going on?" But I looked back at the rest of my life, like not during the meditation time, but the rest of my life, and I realized like up until that time, I started when I was 27, and up until that time, I had regularly fallen into these pits of, I can't handle life, just de- pits of depression, or just like I remember I had a couple panic attacks in the high school parking lot where I taught, and I just felt like I was so highly sensitive that like I don't know, like I just fell into these pits like every week or 2 weeks, like for basically my whole life. And then I started meditating after I did a yoga teacher training, and after 2 or 3 months, I had this like, "Oh, it's not working" crisis. But then I looked back at the rest of my life and I didn't fall into any of those pits that I had fallen into for my entire life. Like literally my whole life as a kid, I remember really having that experience. And that was a huge, huge game changer for me. Um, yeah, it's like I get that. I do think anybody can do it. And I think it's this like kind of superpower that everyone need, especially parents. But I get that it's really hard to like sit down and like essentially do nothing but follow your breath or whatever. Like it's so hard that there was some study that they did where they put people into a room and for 15 minutes and their choice was there was nothing in the room except they could just sit there and do nothing. I don't think they encouraged them to meditate. This is my caveat. But anyway, they could just sit in the room, do nothing, or they could give themselves mild electric shock. And
Hmm.
like, something like 85% of people give themselves mild electric
Oh
shock.
my.
Yeah. I mean, don't quote me on the exact numbers on that, but it was pretty surprising. So there's a big aversion, and I think that it's because for survival, our human species had to be moving forward, predicting what's next, looking out for threats, right? Like that's our momentum is forward moving very much. And so it's kind of like this weird brain hack, I think, too, that 2600 years ago they sat down and stopped moving forward and realized like, oh, I can actually have greater well-being, less anxiety, all of those things when I actually stop doing and settle my breathing or just sit here and I practice not reacting to all the different commands my brain is giving me or whatever it is, right? Or doubts that are arising. When we just sit through those things, we develop this ability to um, tolerate any number of things, including perhaps a crazy tantrum from our child.
Yes. Yeah, that we're all experiencing that too, right?
Yeah. So, how long have you been meditating now, Lynn?
I did. I was learning meditation and mindfulness before I became a member,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what drew me to what you were offering because I felt really strongly that it was something important and that everyone should do and that had a lot of benefit.
Mhm.
And I think that since really from taking mindful parenting and following the course, and it helped me make it more of a regular practice because there was so much urgency because I felt
Mhm.
like now I'm doing this not just for me but for my family, for my children, and that puts another level to it that it really gave me that extra motivation. So I've been meditating for a while and I feel like I yay.
Yay!
But I also have this tendency to get very stressed out, and have high anxiety. So for me, it is a necessity,
Mhm.
and mindful parenting really does help me keep it together in many different areas because I know that I need to be doing this.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Like I notice the days when I don't meditate. I mean, especially during like the beginning of the pandemic, I guess. Like
Hmm.
it used to be I would take a lazy day every week. But since the pandemic started, I've noticed that if I take a lazy day, then I just am like a little bit of a wackadoodle that day, and I definitely feel more anxiety then. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing the studies that show it reduces depression, reduces anxiety. They show that it's as effective as medication, which is like pretty amazing. But it makes a lot of sense. And the thing that I think that's really just helpful for us to remember is that going back to that, like, where I was so frustrated that with the, parenting of advice of just say this, just pause and say this, um, what the brain scans have shown are really interesting. And so the fight, flight, or freeze centers of the brain are the amygdala. They're like these 2 little almond-shaped clusters in the base of your neck, and they're the basic like the alarm bells of the nervous system. And then there's our prefrontal cortex, which is behind our forehead. And that area, like the brain, I have to say, is a very interconnected thing, right? Like it's not like this simple, but just to simplify it, like that area of the brain is like where they indicate like higher order thinking, problem solving, verbal ability, empathy, all of those things like that will help you if you want to respond differently. And when our stress response is going, it literally like cuts off access to that prefrontal cortex because it's that alarm bell is ringing. What the MRI brain scans of mindfulness practice, about an 8-week course of mindfulness practice, show is that it actually shrinks in gray matter, the amygdala, those alarm bells. It actually makes shrinks the connective tissue between the amygdala and the rest of the brain, and it actually grows more dense in gray matter, the gray matter in the prefrontal cortex area. So it's like
Wow.
literally changing the shape of your brain, which is so fascinating, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah, that's very fascinating. And also really shows why it's so important as parents. We're always, there's so many things that we can get triggered by, or that, our children are doing. And, we have kind of this acceptance, I think, as parents of, oh, moms are crazy, or, oh, it's always, it's always something. And, we kind of just, I feel like there's this accepted stereotype that, moms are, do you know what I mean? They're,
Yeah, yeah,
they're,
yeah.
they're
It's
not
like
really together, or it's hard to be a mom. And I think what you just said is, really showing that there is a different way. And I think that's really exciting and really special to share with parents.
stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. We are supported by Bulldog Yoga Online. We know the amazing benefits of yoga. We can get increased strength and better flexibility and improved mental focus, etc. But you know what? Sometimes we try it and don't go back, or even have been afraid to try because it can be really intimidating. And we have been through so much this year where you're juggling a lot: jobs, families, budgets, whole emotional baggage, the wacky school schedules, that whole thing. So enter Bulldog Yoga Online. Bulldog Yoga Online is about taking the intimidation out of yoga and replacing it with music, smiles, and no judgment. Bulldog Online is about making yoga fun, really fun. So sometimes we need an excuse to move in ways that are fun and feel good. And I love these classes. Bulldog's streaming online classes are available on demand, anytime, anyplace, on your schedule. Bulldog even offers classes for kids and teens, so you can get your Bulldog on and get moving with the whole family. Bulldog online classes are easy to follow and set to great playlists meant to motivate and keep you and your family smiling through all the movement. And there are choices for all levels, from beginner classes to heart-pumping workouts. And there are tons of class lengths, which is so cool, to fit your schedule. Classes range from 12 minutes to 60 minutes. So I love that they have the kids balance and flow with Tessa. It's 22 minutes long. And I can do a super fun class too. That is also a short practice too, where I can get my 15-minute energy boost with Sarah, which is so cool. You can try your first 30 days for free at bulldogonline.com. That's bulldogonline.com. Then use the coupon code HUNTER for an additional 50% off your first paid month. Again, that's bulldogonline.com, coupon code HUNTER. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, our culture kind of portrays the extremes, like the perfectly peaceful, like never bothered by anything mom, and then the like give me the wine mom, and
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
the truth is in the middle, and in the middle is where that we can be most effective. But we definitely can be more effective if we can get our SHIT together.
Agreed. Well, I'd like to ask you some questions about the actual, like what the mindful parenting course is about, what's in it. I know that I've taken the course, and you have a whole module on kindness and compassion, including self-compassion. Can you talk a little bit about why self-compassion is so important?
Sure. Yeah. In mindful parenting, like some people are a little surprised that all the first modules are all about how you take care of yourself, right? Like about
Hmm.
us becoming more grounded and take healing ourselves, right? And part of that is that self-compassion piece. Well, first I should also say in the module right before the self-compassion module, we're doing a little digging into our own childhood and trying to understand some of where our triggers come from. So that can be a little challenging for many situations. And so then we want to really dive into this practice of kindness and self compassion. And the whole kindness thing is so interesting because, right, like we know we want our kids to be kind and generous, right? So how do we teach that? We have to model that and we have to practice that. And it's interesting with kindness because sometimes, like, you might assume that like kindness means like if my kid wants to play hide and go seek, like I'm going to jump up and go play hide and go seek with my kid, right? Like, and sometimes that's what it might mean. But other times it might mean like I feeling extraordinarily tired and exhausted, and I'm gonna hold a boundary around playing hide and go seek and say, "I'm only gonna play if I can hide in my covers." Or I can't play right now, right? Um, so it's about looking at some of those things, and the self-compassion piece is so, so huge, and it's almost it's about equally as foundational as the mindfulness piece, which builds our awareness because, um we're hard on ourselves. We're like really we have a habit of being very judgmental and harsh in our inner voice, like really hard on ourselves. And we come from a very judgmental culture, and kind of a hard on ourselves kind of culture, and so we may kind of absorb it from our culture, but and many people kind of think like, "Oh, if I'm not hard on myself, I'm not going to like do differently," right? And this is erroneous way of thinking that we start to shift in mindful parenting in a lot of different ways. But in this sense, like when we're really harsh and mean and we tell ourselves like, I'm a terrible mother, I um, I suck at this, I'm terrible, I just, whatever we're saying, like what's wrong with me, all of these things, we're kind of shaming ourselves, we're leaving ourselves in a sad little pitiful hole. And when we're in that state, we're feeling helpless. We're feeling, like we can't get up and do something. How are we going to show up for our kids? Like, we're not going to be in a great place to show up for our kids if they have needs at that moment. Not at all. Right. And so, when we practice self compassion, we practice starting to speak to ourselves as we might speak to a good friend, practicing mindfulness to just even be aware of what those inner voice that languages we use with ourselves, and even and understanding that we're not alone. I think that's so key. When we can start to practice that, even if it feels really weird to say you did your best or whatever, it provides us with this like soft landing, right? Then we're able to, when we never, when you enter mindful parenting, right, you're doing new things, you're like stretching outside of your comfort zone, you're learning, getting greater awareness of yourself and your history, you're practicing meditation, you're going to start to be learning this whole new language of skillful communication. And it's hard to learn new things and grow. And that growing requires stepping outside of our comfort zone. So it really, when we can step outside of our comfort zone, and when we step outside of our comfort zone, whatever it is, we're inevitably gonna like be human and mess up sometimes because that's just what we do. Like we're human and we mess up sometimes. So we need to be able to, if we can offer ourselves a soft landing, then we can get up and say, okay, I can begin anew. I'm not like destroyed by this. I can begin anew. I made a mistake. That was a hard moment and I'm going to try again. So it's so so essential. What would you say? What's your experience been with self-compassion?
Well, I think that it's like you said, it's so easy for for parents to make a mistake. I mean, we do it all the time. I know I make mistakes all the time, and they can, really bring us down. But one of the things that I really take from self-compassion and from your courses, that you don't have to hold on to that. It's accepting, it's being that, yes, this happened, but I start anew, and I can move on, and then that shows your kids too. I think it comes down to, we're modeling for our kids that we can make a mistake, and it's
Yeah.
okay, and we can, be better the next day, or we can learn and grow from it. I think that's been very helpful, because we don't have
Yeah.
to hold on to it all the time. That can really bring us down.
Yeah. It's such a different message from like the whole behaviorist way of parenting, like where if a kid makes a mistake, you're punishing them for it. And that just makes them like feel like they're a bad person, right? Rather than
Hmm.
teaching them whatever they need to learn in that situation. And it's a similar kind of thing for ourselves. It's like a little bit like reparenting ourselves. We're saying, okay, that was a mistake. This is what was happening. Let's understand it. Let's learn from it rather than let it just destroy us. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there you have a whole other module about, taking care of our difficult feelings, and it's, there's a lot of info there for how to deal with your children's difficult feelings, but there is a big emphasis on our, as parents, on our dealing with our difficult feelings. Can you talk about that and kind of share why that's so important to be included?
Yeah. I think that the vast majority of people in our generation and the millennials, I know you guys are in that parenting generation too. Like the vast majority of us as parents were not taught how to take care of our difficult feelings. We were basically taught like don't have them, right? Like that's me. Was that you too?
I think so. Yeah. Hmm.
And it's like, don't cry, go to your room. I don't know. Like just we weren't given any tools to kind of understand and take care of our difficult feelings. And we're trying to, and it's great. Like there's a bunch of people who are trying to rectify that now, right? But the biggest thing that teaches kids is our own behavior, right? Like they're not great at doing what we say, but they're great at doing what we do. And so when one of the biggest things we can do is learn to model taking care of our difficult feelings because we're going to have them. No one's going to be like calm all the time. I'm not, and you're you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get angry, you're going to get anxious, you're going to be feel sad, all of those things like we're going to have that full range of emotion. And when we can accept that, and then we need to then have tools, right? Because kind of the old school tools are either like you're drowning in it, you're either like exploding in anger or you're like drowning in, it's completely taking over you, or you're blocking it and pushing it away, and we can block our feelings by like, I don't know, all kinds of things like just the to-do list, drugs, drinking, shopping, Netflix, like, and sometimes like a little bit, all those things is like fine, right? Like we have all of our comfort zone. But when we're blocking our feelings, then it's kind of like our feelings end up being like this. I like to think of them, they're like it's like a beach ball that you're trying to push under the water. And as you like push that beach ball under the water, it like slides out sideways and like comes up even higher in some like random place. And that's how our feelings are like when we try to like shove them away, they come out in different in ways that we can't anticipate sometimes. And so I teach that middle path of how do we take care of our difficult feelings mindfully. And there's a number of different tools in there, but it's like, I don't know, for me, I think that was so important. And for the people I was working with, it's just like to have a process to say, oh, you know, anxiety is rising for me right now. How can I take care of this rather than I'm going to go eat some chocolate. It's like much better to model. And then with our kids, we can model that too. When difficult feelings are rising, we say, oh, I'm feeling X right now. I'm going to take a minute to take care of these feelings.
I think that that's been really huge. And I think that a lot of parents come into parenting thinking or practicing how, you tell your kids what to do. You're telling them to be this way, telling them to do this way. And what I really see about being a part of the mindful parenting community is there's all these parents now, really sharing these awesome moments with their kids when their kids are actually picking up on their new behavior, on the parents' new behaviors, And instead, as a parent, instead of telling your kid what to do, you're now, like you said, modeling it for them. And we're seeing that over and over again when moms are sharing things, oh, my son, my like tiny son, 3 years old, 4 years old, is using iMessages, and they're saying like, mom, do you need to do you need 5 minutes to go meditate or take a breath, or like there's these stories that come out, and it just is so, it's so amazing because it makes so much sense. Like, of course, having this approach is it's helping everyone, not just one part of the relationship.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I love those stories too. Like the little kids talking about their feelings and asking. Yeah, I know. It's amazing. It's amazing at what ages they can do different things too, and understand. Um, but yeah, I know. It's like it's such a two for one deal when you learn how to ground yourself and take care of your own difficult feelings mindfully. It's like it's like 2 for 1 because 'cause you're doing it for yourself and you're doing it for your child too, or multiple children perhaps.
And we're starting to really get into this skillful communication, which is a huge part of the course of what you teach. Talk a little bit about that. Is there something when it comes to communicating that you see a lot of parents doing that can maybe be done differently, or what are you really seeing, and how is skillful communication so important?
Sure. I think that we have this crazy idea about parenting that like we're just going to instinctively know how to do it. It's so funny because we don't think that with other things. We're not like I'm going to just be perfect at tennis or cooking or horseback riding like without ever like learning. So but what happens is what and there are instincts obviously when our kids are babies, but that's pretty early on, but the things we think of as instincts are actually really conditioned responses from your own childhood and the culture at large. So in the culture at large, we treat kids pretty disrespectfully. Like we do a lot of like we bark orders at them kind of constant. Like if you're a 2-year old, your life consists of like pick up your toy, put on your shoes, push in your chair, put that back, get in the car. It's just like a constant stream of orders directed at you. And we just don't realize it because that's just the milieu of our culture. Like it just, seems really normal. So in mindful parenting, what we're doing is it's amazing because there are ways that have been studied about communication since like the 60s and the 70s. So I studied and looked at like nonviolent communication with Marshall Rosenberg and parent effectiveness training with Thomas Gordon. Both of those people studied under, oh God, I'm blanking the name. You're probably remembering it, dear listener. What at least one of you is. Anyway, and so that they in these styles of communication, they realize that a lot of the things we do as parents are actually like pretty counterproductive. You know, like orders, for instance, like because there are no human beings on the planet, no matter what age, that like to be ordered around. Um, it makes kids resist what you say, just naturally kind of be resistant. And that builds up over time. We use threats, right? If you don't do this, I'm going to take away your screen time. And kids resist that too because no one likes to be threatened and it doesn't make a lot of sense, so it causes resentment. And so what happens is like over time this resentment builds and builds, and then those threats have to kind of escalate and escalate. And so then when we stop having power over our kids, right? So we have power over our young ones, a lot of power over their lives, how their lives are. And then as you have a child who gets into adolescence, they can get themselves dressed, get their own food, get themselves to school. They can do a lot of they don't need as much. So you literally like have less power over them. And so what happens is that by the time you get to adolescence, so much resentment from these old school tactics has built that you've destroyed the influence that you have, because power has an inverse relationship with influence. The more power you use, the less influence you have, and the less you use power, the more influence you have. So we teach communication skills to that don't require someone to like manipulate and use power over another party. And what that involves is starting to understand like um how when we have conflicts are really um people having conflicting needs. Every single thing our child does, every single instance of what we think of as bad behavior is your child trying to meet a need of theirs, whether it's autonomy or attention or affection or whatever it is. And the same is true for us, right? Like we are also trying to meet our needs. And when we can start to understand that, rather than condemning them for their behavior or shaming or blaming them for a behavior that we don't like, we don't like hitting and things like that, we can start to say, okay, we can step back a minute and say, what does my child need to learn in this situation? And that's like a whole shift in the way we look at parenting. Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcasts right after this break. We are supported by Osea Skincare, plant-based, bioavailable skincare that delivers your best skin. So I don't know about you, but I'm 43 now, and I'm starting to get much more concerned about my skin. I know it makes such a big difference in how I look, how I feel, and it's so important to take care of our face, but also the rest of our skin really matters too. Our skin is the largest organ, so it's kind of silly to only take care of part of it. After huddling up all winter, our skin needs some TLC to get ready for sunny months. I'm so happy that I discovered Osea just in time to get my skin healthy and smooth. It can be hard to find skincare products made with clean and safe ingredients. What goes on your skin is just as important to your overall wellness as what you eat. That's why I love using Osea products to support my skin without harming the planet. I am so excited about incorporating the Undaria algae body oil into my routine. I love to get out of the shower, and while my skin is still a little moist, to put that body oil on it, and it just feels so amazing, luxurious and rich, not greasy or sticky. You can go to the oseamalibu.com site and read a full ingredient list of all their beautiful natural ingredients that you can feel really good about putting on your skin. Osea's Undaria algae body oil instantly moisturizes and replenishes dry skin, leaving every inch silky and smooth. Skin is super soft and glowing with Undaria algae, acai, and babuso seed oil. Osea soaks hand-harvested Undaria algae in barrels of oils for up to 6 months. The result is liquid gold, a rich, luxurious, never greasy body oil, fragrant with sunny citrus and top notes of sweet passion fruit. Osea creates skin and body care products powered by the sea. They've made clean, safe skincare products since 1996. They're vegan and cruelty-free. Osea's products are responsibly sourced, plant-derived ingredients. Good for your skin and good for the planet. And it's a female-founded and family-operated by a mother-daughter team. You can try Osea risk-free for 30 days and get free shipping on orders over $50. They even sent free samples with every order, which I love. And get 10% off your first order with my promo code MINDFUL at oseamalibu.com. That's 10% off with the code MINDFUL at OSEAMALIBU.com. And you can find that link in the show notes. Wherever you're on the device you're listening to, just click over to the notes section. You can find that link right there. So get 10% off with the coupon code MINDFUL.
That's actually what really clicked for me. I remember a few years ago listening to you, give a little talk, and that's what you were talking about. You were talking about how, as parents, are you blaming them? Are you shaming them? Are you ordering them? Like those things. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm doing. And it really hit me that, oh, I didn't think that what I was saying, threatening, I didn't think I was threatening, but I did that a lot. Like, oh, you better do this, or I'm gonna, or clean this up now, or we're not gonna, do something fun. Like there was all these, like I was really big, and it's still something that's hard to work through, but I'm definitely
I just have
getting
to
a lot
say
better.
me too. Interject here and say, like, when I'm like in a place where I'm like, nothing's working, like threatening is like totally my go-to too. So I am not like an amazing, perfect angel of communication yet either.
I don't think anyone is, right? We can agree
No,
on that, right?
yes.
But I didn't realize that how I was communicating with my kids was actually, blaming them, was shaming them, was threatening them. And that sat with me kind of hard, because I didn't want to be communicating that way. And it just, you really made me think of something different. Like, it can be different. And I don't want to lose, my kids are still young. I don't want to lose that relationship as I get older. And, that really stuck with me and I think is one of, there's so many valuable parts, but one of the most valuable things for me learning was the skillful communication, was, these different tools that I can really speak to my children a lot better. And it's amazing, they listen and they do things differently, and they start to model that. Just it's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I do have to say.
it is pretty awesome. And I have to say it's hard too. Like it's like kind of like learning a new language, it's like we kind of have to translate in our heads, and it is challenging. And that's why, like, in the membership, we have kind of these big three communication skills. And that's why in the membership, we're now like every month we're doing a specific practice skills section on one of those communication skills. And we're like getting together and we're like in breakout rooms and everybody's practicing, and we're really breaking it down, because it really is like a language that you're learning. And it's not like one and done. Okay, thanks, Hunter, I got it. And that's why we offer that like lifetime membership too, because we want to support people at different ages and stages. And then people come with different stages quite a bit. We had a member, I don't know if you saw that, Lynn, but she came to a coaching session recently, and she hadn't been to one in a while. And she had been coming a lot, like, maybe like a year and a half or 2 years ago. And then her child now, as it is now decided that they are, has realized that they are trans. And so is having all these new challenges. But so it's like, to me, that, I know I'm kind of like digressing, but I think that's so important, just to be able to, you never know what's coming up. It's so helpful to have like a system, a method, something to say, come back to when you're like, oh gosh, the world is falling apart.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Now, when it comes to parents, what's the number one thing you see, that parents, could improve on? What do you think is like that number one thing out there?
I think it's our reactivity. I definitely think it's that. I think that don't, we're not giving enough attention to our own, had the power of our own state of mind and our own state of, heart and mind and nervous system. And that is huge. I think that we don't realize what an influence we have. Like, we have to live what we want our kids to learn. We have to be the model for what we want them to learn. And that is really big. It's interesting. I was talking to, for the podcast, I was talking to Erin Huey, who runs a treatment center for really, really struggling kids, for kids who have had multiple suicide attempts and teens who have drug abuse and all these things. And we were talking about how we can prevent our kids from ever seeing you. and and the number one thing he said is parents self-care, and parents taking care of their heart, their mind, and their nervous system. And so it was really interesting for me to see that applies even at that extreme level. And I think that, we don't have enough support as parents, and I know that, but yeah, that piece I think is the most important.
Wow. My husband and I were talking very recently, because it's only been the last few months that my husband's really gotten on board and has been curious and interested and seeing a lot of benefit from, from the mindful parenting course and this approach to parenting. And so we were talking, I'm so proud of him, because he's been meditating now. And for years been like, you have to meditate. Yeah, meditate. And it wasn't, he didn't really see the benefit, but for whatever reason, he started, and now he even meditates by himself, which I'm just like, oh my gosh, who is this person? But, he told me that he really sees a difference in what you said about reactivity, how he's not freaking out about things. He was just, at a sports practice for our daughter, and he was telling me how, I wasn't there, but our son was, like getting really messy, let's say in a puddle, and normally he'd look at that and be like, oh no, and yell at him to stop, like, don't do this. And then he realized that there's no problem, like it was just, there's so many things that, aren't really a problem. We just react to them, very strongly. And then, it was pretty special, because then he saw our son, just playing and just, having fun. And, it could have gone a lot differently, and that's just one example. Like that's been really special in our family, because now we're both really seeing things differently and able to just respond so much differently. And just having us both meditate now, it's making like huge differences, which is pretty exciting. I mean, it's exciting for me, and I'm sure that, yeah, thank
Yay,
you.
that is so exciting. And I just want to point out to the listener, if you're like, that would never happen with my partner. We get a ton of people who, sometimes we have husbands and wives like in coaching calls together. It happens sometimes. And men are part of the equation. Like, we give a free mindful parenting membership to your parenting partner, right? Like we do that. So we want everyone to be involved. But sometimes people, they're not, right? Like, maybe one spouse is really into, one parent is really into it, and one parent isn't. But what I do see a lot is something similar to that, Lynn, like, cause you were in the membership for like a year before that ever happened.
Oh yeah. It was a while.
And when we can respect that our partner's own journey, and respect that they got their own mind, but our kids, what happens is it's not as confusing to our kids as you'd think. Like, kids are actually very able to have different relationships with different people in their family. And I mean, I don't know if you found that like in that year before he started kind of getting on board, but what happens a lot is that a parent starts to see, oh, the kids are cooperating more with you. You guys are a lot chiller now. I kind of want to like learn a little bit more about what you're doing. That's what we see a lot of.
Oh yeah. I mean, what we saw in my family was he would yell and, the kids wouldn't, maybe want to be with him at that moment, like they would be naturally drawn to the calmer parent, they'd want to talk to me more. They'd want to talk through the problems. And he saw that. And I think that that was a part of, realizing that, I don't want that other relationship. I want this relationship. But it's been really special. And you're right. There's a lot of parents in the membership who are, their husbands or partners don't always come on board right away, but over time we see a lot more. And I think that's really special.
I think this is so funny because you and I, Lynn, could talk about this for so long, but I feel like we
Yeah.
talked for a while about it. And I want to just address something that you have added so much to in the community. The mindful parenting community was strong before, but Lynn is our community manager, as I mentioned at the beginning of this. And you bring this, you have brought the community together to a whole new level. But I just would love to just speak to the idea of community and that idea of like that we kind of think that we kind of have to do things alone. But when you're part of like hundreds of families doing this all around the world, like if you're in a place where this is not supported, like people are like, spare the rod and spoil the child, it makes a big difference. What have you seen in the community, Lynn?
It's a really special place. I mean, there's parents from all around the world, which is so neat. I mean,
Yeah,
you
like
we it,
Dubai,
yeah, like
Australia, Chile.
yeah, you are not alone. And when you see that, it's I don't know, it really has a unique and like special it's a special place where we come together. And what I mean, I was like I said, I was a member for a while. So when you were looking for a community manager, to me that just like stood out because it's something that I really love. I really love what you're sharing and teaching with mindful parenting. So it was something that naturally I was just like, oh, I would love to be a part of. And now I don't know, like what we were talking about before with hearing all of the stories and the struggles that parents go through. We all relate to them, and sharing it in this group where we are just uh,
Yeah, like
we're very
non-judgmental.
supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Non-judgmental. We're just there to help each other out. And sometimes, people are just asking for, that support for another, maybe opinion or view, or it's just been, it's been really incredible. And I think that in these last few months, especially, we've seen, older members, like members who've been, here for a longer time, newer members, just really reaching out and supporting each other, and realizing that we're not alone, and we're not like we don't have to do this alone. We don't have to continue to, go without support. So I don't
Yeah,
know. I
yeah, yeah.
really
And
think it's special.
you have been helping facilitate our accountability buddies, which is like such a huge thing too. When we're trying to make change, like if you have a little buddy, a person who's doing the same thing, you can text them or email them. That makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, it's been really great. I mean, I love being a part of it. I love getting to know our members more and making friends. I mean, it's great people in this group. So it's been a lot of fun, I have to say. It's just been really exciting. So I guess I know we've been, like you said, we've been talking for a while, and I don't even know what time it is, but um, I'm going to start, my kids are going to start to like come off the bus or something soon and be like, Mom. Um, but I do want to ask you one more thing. And that is just thinking about the future, thinking about, what is your vision for mindful parenting? Where, Tell us about this vision. Like, this is exciting.
I am really excited about it because as you know, I'm working with mindful parenting teacher trainees, people who are training to teach mindful parenting in person in their communities. And there's like someone in Sweden and someone in Australia and someone in Texas and Wisconsin, so it's really exciting to see that. But, I really I just want to uh, transform the way that we are with children, right? Like we talk about teaching mindfulness in schools, we talk about all these things, but the way to reach children when they are at the most impressionable is to reach parents and to transform ourselves, right? And so yeah, I guess my vision is like kind of just letting it be getting it accessed by more and more people and just to help grow this community and kind of transform the way we parent and put put down that spoil the rod, spoil the child, spare the rod, spoil the child point of view, and transform that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Well, I'm thankful to be a part of it because I know that that you're making a difference in not just the lives of the parents, the lives of children, and the future, future generations. I think that is so special. Thank
And,
you, Hunter.
and you are too. Thank you, Lynn. You're like the best community manager ever.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. I think this has been so fun to talk about. I can't believe we never talked about it on the Mindful Mama podcast till now. So thank you so much for talking to me about it with
Yeah,
me.
well, you're very welcome.
All right. I hope you enjoyed this conversation about mindful parenting. Obviously, Lynn and I could have talked forever about the concepts and things behind mindful parenting. It's so exciting for me. If you want to learn more, go ahead and go to mindfulparentingcourse.com and get on the wait list. And when you do, we'll send you some information. We'll send you the 6-step roadmap for mindful parenting. So go ahead and go to mindfulparentingcourse.com. That's mindfulparentingcourse.com and check it out. Get on the wait list. And I think wherever you're listening to this, if you click on your podcast player and you go to the notes section, you should be able to jump right to that link. So super easy. And let me know what your takeaways are. I would love to hear on Facebook or Instagram. What are your takeaways? Take a screenshot of you listening and share it with me. Tag me. I'm at Mindful Mama Mentor. And I would love to see what your ahas are and what's going on for you as you listen to this and what you're taking from this. And I hope it's been helpful to really understand and dive in deeper. And I am just wishing you a beautiful week. I'm wishing you some peace within so that you can have peace to give to your family and your loved ones and your friends. And I wish you some lazy moments and some energetic dancing around moments and all those good things as we get into this time where we're getting our vaccines. I hope you're getting your vaccine and taking care of, everyone that way. And I wish you lots of peace and joy and all of those good things. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful for your time here today. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back in your ears next week and talking to a very cool friend about gathering our wild. Very excited about this conversation. So I will be back in your ears next Tuesday, and I'll talk to you then, my friend. Thanks so much for listening. Namaste.
I'd say definitely do it. It's really helpful. It will change your relationship with your kids for the better. It will help you communicate better. And I'd say communicate better as a person, as a wife, as a spouse. It's been really a positive influence in our lives. So definitely do it.
I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so worth it. It'll change you.
No matter what age someone's child is, it's a great opportunity for personal growth and it's a great investment in someone's family. I'm very thankful I had this
you can continue in your old habits that aren't working, or you can learn some new tools and gain some perspective to shift everything in your parenting.
Are you frustrated by parenting? Do you listen to the experts and try all the tips and strategies, but you're just not seeing the results that you want? Or are you lost as to where to start? Does it all seem so overwhelming with too much to learn? Are you yearning for a community of people who get it, who also don't want to threaten and punish to create cooperation? Hi, I'm Hunter Clarke-Fields, and if you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to seriously consider the Mindful Parenting membership. You will be joining hundreds of members who have discovered the path of mindful parenting and now have confidence and clarity in their parenting. This isn't just another parenting class. This is an opportunity to really discover your unique, lasting relationship, not only with your children, but with yourself. It will translate into lasting, connected relationships, not only with your children, but your partner too. Let me change your life. Go to mindfulparentingcourse.com to add your name to the waitlist, so you will be the first to be notified when I open the membership for enrollment. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. mindfulparentingcourse.com.